the massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council, stretched high above the gathering chamber on Nexus Prime. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the floating platforms that circled the central speaking area. The air buzzed with the sounds of hundreds of different languages being translated through neural implants. Commander Zara Okafor stood at the entrance to the Great Hall, trying not to show how nervous she felt. She was tall for a human woman, with dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her Blue Earth Alliance uniform looked plain, next to the glowing robes and bioarmor worn by the alien delegates around her. "Remember," whispered Dr. Marcus Webb, her science advisor, "we are here to make friends, not enemies." Zara nodded, but kept her expression calm. She had trained for this moment for 5 years. Earth's first contact with the galactic community had happened only 2 years ago, when a Centauri trade ship detected radio signals from human colonies. Since then, everything had moved very fast. Too fast, Zara thought. A tall, insect-like creature approached them. Its forearms moved in complex patterns as it spoke through a translation device. "Greetings, primitive ones. I am Sub-Administrator Click of the Registration Authority. You will follow me to your designated area." The way it said primitive ones made Zara's jaw tighten, but she followed without comment. Dr. Webb and the rest of her small team walked behind her. They passed groups of aliens who stopped talking to stare at the humans with open curiosity. "Look at their crude clothing," whispered a being that looked like a walking tree. "No bioenhancement at all." "I heard they still use chemical rockets," laughed another creature with too many eyes. "How wonderfully backward." Sub-Administrator Click led them to a small platform near the back of the chamber, far from the important seats. "You will observe. From here," it said, "do not speak unless given permission. Do not touch anything. Do not." "We understand," Zara interrupted. The insect, being mandibles, clicked in what might have been annoyance. The central platform began to glow, and a massive holographic display appeared above it. The chatter in the chamber died down as beings took their seats. A creature that looked like a floating jellyfish with arms began to speak. "The Galactic Council will now hear the petition of the species calling itself humanity," the speaker announced. Its voice echoed through the chamber with artificial dignity. Zara felt hundreds of eyes turned toward their small platform. She stood straighter and activated her own translation device. "State your case, newcomer," the speaker continued. "Honorable council members," Zara began, her voice carrying across the vast space. "Humanity comes before you seeking membership. In the galactic community, we offer friendship, trade, and our unique perspective on science and exploration." A sound like laughter rippled through the chamber. Near the front, a group of beings in military uniforms leaned forward with interest. These were the hegemony of Vex, Zara realized, the galaxy's most powerful military force. General Kados of the Vex stood up. He was massive, even for his species, with gray skin covered in battle scars and cybernetic implants that glowed red in the dim light. "What could a species that has barely left its home system offer us?" he asked, his voice booming through amplifiers. "We have made significant advances in quantum mechanics and space-time theory," Dr. Webb replied, stepping forward. "Our scientists have developed new approaches to faster-than-light travel and fusion drives." Krydos interrupted with a snort. "Kinetic weapons, chemical explosives. We have records of your technology, human. My people were building antimatter engines when your species was discovering fire." More laughter filled the chamber. Zara felt her face grow hot, but she kept her voice steady. "Every species brings something unique to the galactic community. We believe our contributions will be limited to mining asteroids and growing food crops," finished another voice. This came from Ambassador Thyler of the Zenith Collective, a tall being with blue skin and silver eyes. "We have reviewed your capabilities. You may serve as agricultural laborers in Sector 7429. It is a quiet region where you will not trouble the established order." The speaker raised one of its tentacles. "The Council recognizes the efficiency of this solution. Humanity will be granted restricted membership with settlement rights limited to Sector 7429. Trade rights will be supervised by the Zenith Collective. Military vessel construction is forbidden without Council approval." "Forbidden." Zara stepped forward, anger finally showing in her voice. "You would make us prisoners in our own sector. You would make yourselves extinct if left to your own devices. Caddis rumbled. Your species shows dangerous tendencies toward violence and unpredictable experimentation. The Council protects you from yourselves. We do not need protection, Zara said firmly. All primitive species say this, replied Tyler, with what might have been a smile. Yet here you stand, asking us for permission to join a community we have built over millions of years. Your weapons cannot pierce our shields. Your ships cannot match our speed. Your science is thousands of years behind ours. What exactly do you think you could do if we chose to deny your request entirely? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Zara looked around the chamber at the thousands of alien faces watching her. Some looked amused, others looked bored. A few seemed almost sympathetic, but none spoke up in humanity's defense. We would survive, Zara said quietly. Humans always survive. This time the laughter was louder and longer. Kratos actually slapped his knee with one of his 4 hands. Admirable spirit, he said. Completely useless, but admirable. The speaker waved its tentacles for silence. The matter is decided. Humanity is granted restricted membership. You will be provided with star charts for your assigned sector and trade regulations within 7 standard days. This session is concluded. The platform began to descend, but Katos called out one more time. A word of advice, human commander, he said, his red implants pulsing brighter. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. Stay in your designated space. Explore your little corner quietly. Do not draw attention to yourselves with foolish adventures or illegal experiments. The Council's patience has limits. As the aliens began filing out of the chamber, chattering among themselves about trade routes and border disputes, Zara and her team stood alone on their small platform. Dr. Webb looked pale and shaken. Sector 7429, he muttered, checking his data pad. 17 star systems, most of them empty space or dead worlds. They have given us a closet and called it a kingdom. At least we are in, said Lieutenant Torres, their military attachés. We have official recognition. That is something. Is it? Zara asked. She watched the last of the alien delegates disappear through the chamber exits. Did you hear how they talked about us? Like we were children asking to sit at the adults' table. We are children compared to them, Webb pointed out. Some of these species have been traveling between stars for millions of years. The Vex hegemony controls 300 systems. The Zenith Collective has technology we cannot even understand. Maybe they are right. Maybe we should be grateful for what they offer and build slowly. Zara turned to look at him. Is that what you really believe, Marcus? The scientist hesitated. I believe we have much to learn, and I believe they have much to learn about humans, Zara replied. She activated her communication device and sent a coded message back to Earth. 3 simple words that would change everything. Project Erebus approved. The message traveled through quantum space, reaching Earth in seconds, despite the vast distance. In a hidden laboratory beneath the Colorado mountains, Dr. Elena Vasquez received the transmission and smiled grimly. She had been waiting 2 years for those words. Around her, the most brilliant scientists humanity had ever produced worked on equations that would have terrified the Galactic Council if they understood them. While the galaxy built bigger guns and stronger shields, humans had chosen a different path entirely. They were learning to weaponize the darkness between stars. Back on Nexus Prime, Zara and her team prepared to return to Earth with their new restricted membership status. As their small ship lifted off from the planet's surface, Sub-Administrator Click watched from a terminal window. Troublesome species, it muttered to itself. Too much curiosity, too many questions. The Vex are right to want them contained. What? Click did not know. What none of them knew was that humans had been listening to galactic communications for months before making official contact. They had learned about the Council's arrogance, the Vex military dominance, and the casual way powerful species treated weaker ones. They had also learned that for all their advanced technology, the galactic community had never seriously studied dark matter. To them, it was just the invisible foundation that held the universe together. Useful for calculations, but not something to experiment with. Humans, as always, saw things differently. As Zara's ship entered faster than light travel, heading back toward the small sector they had been assigned, she opened a private channel to Earth Command. Mission completed, she reported. "We are officially the galaxy's newest junior members, restricted to Sector 7429 with supervised trade rights and forbidden military development." "Understood," came the reply from Admiral Chen. "How long do you estimate before they try to enforce those restrictions?" Zara thought about General Kratos and his casual threats, about the way the entire council had dismissed humanity without a second thought. "Not long," she said. "They see us as a potential problem that needs managing. Someone will come to remind us of our place soon enough. Then we had better be ready. How is the project progressing?" There was a pause before Admiral Chen answered. "Dr. Vasquez reports that the first prototype will be ready for testing within 6 months. If her theories are correct, the entire galaxy is about to learn that humans do not stay in assigned corners." Zara smiled as she looked out at the stars streaming past. Somewhere out there, alien species were going about their business, secure in their technological superiority and ancient power structures. They had no idea that in a hidden laboratory on a backward planet, human scientists were learning to bend the very fabric of space-time to their will. The galaxy had made its position clear. Humanity was to be a minor species, grateful for scraps from the table of their betters. They were to mine asteroids, grow food, and stay quiet. But humans had never been good at staying quiet. As the ship jumped through hyperspace toward Earth, Zara began planning. The Council had given them 7 days to receive their star charts and regulations. That meant they had 7 days before the galaxy started paying attention to what humanity was doing in their assigned sector. 7 days to prepare for war against enemies who had no idea it was coming. In the dark spaces between galaxies, where normal matter became thin and strange forces ruled, something stirred. The first tentative probes from Earth scientists had touched the void that surrounded all things. Soon, much larger disturbances would follow. The galaxy thought it had contained humanity's ambitions. It was about to learn how wrong it could be. 3 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through corridors that officially did not exist. The Erebus research facility had been carved from solid rock and shielded with every stealth technology humanity possessed. Even Earth's government knew only basic details about what happened here. Elena's footsteps echoed in the empty hallway as she made her way to Laboratory 7. At 43, she was already considered one of the greatest theoretical physicists in human history. But the work she was doing now went far beyond anything taught in universities. She paused at a security checkpoint where scanners read her DNA, brainwave patterns, and quantum signature. The massive doors slid open with a soft hiss. "Good morning, Dr. Vasquez," said her assistant, Dr. James Park, looking up from a bank of monitors. "The overnight calculations are complete. I think you are going to want to see this." Elena approached the central display where streams of data flowed like digital waterfalls. For 2 years, her team had been working on humanity's most classified project, learning to manipulate dark matter itself. "Show me," she said. Park activated the main holographic display. A 3-dimensional model of space appeared, showing the invisible web of dark matter that connected all things. "We have been thinking about this wrong," he said excitedly. "Everyone treats dark matter like it is just there, like cosmic background. But look at this." He manipulated the display, zooming in on areas where dark matter density was higher. "It is not just background. It is a medium, like water or air, but in dimensions we cannot normally access. And if it is a medium, then it can be disturbed." Elena finished. "It can carry waves, energy, information." Her eyes widened as she understood. "It can be controlled." Exactly. And here is the beautiful part. No one else is even trying. The Galactic Council species have been building with normal matter for so long, they cannot think outside that box. They see dark matter as invisible scaffolding. "We see it as the largest energy source in the universe," Elena said quietly. "James, if we can tap into even a fraction of the dark matter around us, we would have more power than antimatter engines, more power than the stars themselves." Park nodded enthusiastically. "But that is not even the best part. Watch this simulation." The display changed to show a theoretical spacecraft surrounded by a field of manipulated dark matter. If we can create a controlled dark matter field around a ship, we can do things that should be impossible. The ship would exist partially outside normal space-time, It could pass through solid matter, become invisible to normal sensors, and travel instantaneously between points in space. Elena stared at the simulation. Phase shifting, she whispered. We would not be faster than light. We would be outside light entirely. The applications for weapons are Park paused. Well, they are terrifying. Elena was quiet for a long moment, studying the data. As a scientist, she was excited by the possibilities. As a human who had heard how the Galactic Council spoke about her species, she was something else entirely. How long until we can build a prototype? She asked. The theory is solid. We have been testing small-scale dark matter manipulation for 6 months with good results. But scaling up to ship size? Park shrugged. Maybe a year, maybe 2. We have 6 months. Park's face went pale. Elena, that is impossible. The engineering alone. Commander Okafor sent word yesterday. The Council has restricted us to a small sector and forbidden military development. How long do you think before they decide we are a problem that needs a more permanent solution? Elena walked to another terminal and pulled up intercepted galactic communications. The Vex hegemony has been monitoring our radio traffic. They know we have been conducting space experiments. General Kados considers us dangerously unpredictable. They are already talking about intervention. Then maybe we should slow down, Park suggested nervously. Prove we can be peaceful neighbors. James, look at the history files again. How do powerful species treat weaker ones in this galaxy? Park activated his datapad and scrolled through intelligence reports. His expression grew grim as he read. The Alarians were restricted to their home system for aggressive tendencies. That was 300 years ago. They have never been allowed to expand. Keep reading. The Kepler Confederacy was disbanded after they tried to develop new weapons. Their planets were occupied by Vex peacekeepers. Park looked up. Elena, there are dozens of species that were powerful once. Now they serve as laborers, or have disappeared entirely. And what did they all have in common? Park thought for a moment. They all tried to work within the system. They followed council rules and hoped for gradual acceptance. Exactly. The galaxy does not reward good behavior, James. It rewards strength. Either we become strong enough to stand as equals, or we become another footnote in galactic history. Elena turned back to the main display and began calling up technical specifications. We have 6 months to build the first dark matter warship. That means we need to start construction immediately. Even while we are still working out the theory, the risks are acceptable. Bring me the volunteer pilot roster. Park reluctantly activated another screen. A list of names appeared, all marked with the highest security clearances. We have 37 volunteers, from Earth's best pilots. All of them have been briefed on the theoretical dangers. Elena scanned the list, stopping at one name. Sarah Chen, military background, quantum physics degree, and she survived the Mars incident. Perfect. Elena, the Mars incident killed half the test pilots who tried that experimental drive and taught us valuable lessons about phase variance. Sarah learned those lessons the hard way. That makes her our best choice. Elena sent orders to have Commander Chen report to the facility immediately. Then she turned to the massive construction bay visible through the laboratory's observation windows. Below them, hundreds of technicians worked on something that looked like a ship crossed with a mathematical equation. The hull was being constructed from materials that did not quite exist in normal space-time. Metals infused with dark matter particles, electronics that processed information through quantum dimensions, and a propulsion system that would bend reality itself. Project Erebus enters active construction phase today. Elena announced, I want teams working around the clock. We are going to do in 6 months what the galactic community would consider impossible in 6 centuries. And if we fail, then humanity becomes another client species mining asteroids for our galactic masters. Elena's voice hardened. That is not acceptable. Over the following weeks, the Erebus facility became a hive of impossible activity. Scientists worked alongside engineers to solve problems that had never been imagined before. How do you install weapons that fire dark matter? How do you create life support systems that function partially outside normal reality? How do you train pilots to fly ships that exist in multiple dimensions at once? Commander Sarah Chen arrived at the facility 3 days after receiving her orders. She was shorter than Elena had expected, with Asian features and eyes that had seen too much action. The scars on her hands told the story of the Mars incident better than any report. "Dr. Vasquez," she said, shaking hands firmly. "I understand. You need someone crazy enough to fly an impossible ship. That is one way to put it," Elena replied. "How much do you know about dark matter theory?" "Enough to know that what you are trying to do should kill everyone involved." Sarah grinned. "When do we start?" Elenina led her to the observation deck overlooking the construction bay. The prototype ship was taking shape, and it was beautiful in a terrifying way. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and occasionally parts of it would flicker as if unsure whether to exist. "We are calling her the Shadow Bane," Elena said. "The first ship designed to operate in dark matter space. She looks like someone tried to build a warship out of nightmares," Sarah observed. "I love her already." The theory suggests that once the dark matter drive is activated, the ship will phase shift between dimensions. You will be able to pass through solid matter, become invisible to normal sensors, and travel instantaneously across vast distances. "And the weapons." Elena pointed to mounting points along the ship's hull that seemed to twist space around them. "Dark matter disruptors. Instead of firing energy or projectiles, they will create localized distortions in space-time itself. Anything caught in the field will be torn apart at the quantum level." Sarah whistled softly. "How do we know it will work?" "We do not. That is why we need test pilots." "And how many test pilots have we lost so far?" Elena hesitated. 7. But we learned something valuable from each failure. "What did we learn?" "That dark matter does not follow the rules we thought it did. It is not just a medium for energy and information. It is alive in a sense. It responds to consciousness, to intent." The pilots who died were trying to control the ship through instruments. The ones who survived learned to interface directly with the dark matter field. Sarah turned to look at Elena with new interest. "Interface? How?" "Neural implants, quantum processors that link your brain directly to the ship's dark matter core. You do not fly the Shadow Bane so much as become part of it and the side effects. We are still studying that. Some pilots report enhanced awareness, the ability to sense things across vast distances. Others have described feeling connected to the dark spaces between stars. And some go insane." Elena nodded reluctantly. "Some do. The human mind was not designed to process information from multiple dimensions simultaneously." Sarah was quiet for a long moment, studying the ship below. "When do I get the implants?" "You are sure about this, Dr. Vasquez? I have read the intelligence reports. I know what happened to species that tried to play nice with the galactic community. If we do not develop something that can make them respect us, we will spend the next 1,000 years as their servants." Sarah turned to face Elena directly. "How long do we have before they come to put us in our place?" "Months, not years. The Vex military is already asking questions about our space activities. General Kados considers us a potential threat that needs managing. Then we had better be ready to manage them first." Elena smiled grimly. "The surgery is scheduled for tomorrow morning. If everything goes according to plan, you will be piloting the Shadow Bane within 2 weeks. And if everything goes wrong, then you join the 7 pilots who died learning how dark matter really works." "Acceptable risks," Sarah said with a shrug. "When do we start target practice?" As the sun set above the hidden facility, work continued in the depths below. The Shadow Bane was almost complete, its impossible hull gleaming with dark energy. Soon, Commander Chen would climb into the pilot seat and activate systems that could either save humanity or destroy them all. In the galactic capital, intelligence reports were accumulating about unusual energy signatures in Earth's sector. The Vex military was beginning to take notice of the primitive species that was supposed to be quietly mining asteroids. General reviewed the reports with growing concern. Energy readings that made no sense. Construction activities that defied explanation. Radio chatter about projects with code names like Erebus and Shadowbane. "Prepare a battle fleet," he ordered his subordinates. "It appears the humans need a reminder about the terms of their galactic membership." Neither side knew that the first test of the Shadowbane was scheduled for the following week. Neither side understood that humanity was about to field a weapon system that would make conventional warfare obsolete. The galaxy was about to learn that there were worse things than human ambition. There was human ingenuity. General Kados stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Wrath. watching the blue-green planet grow larger on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful from orbit with its white clouds and brown continents. It was hard to believe such a quiet world had been causing him so much trouble. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, a thin Vex with cybernetic eye implants. "We are detecting unusual energy signatures from multiple locations on the planet's surface. Underground facilities that were not present in our previous scans." "Show me," Kados ordered. The main display changed to show a tactical overview of Earth. Several areas glowed red, indicating heavy industrial activity hidden beneath the surface. The largest concentration appeared to be in the mountain regions of North America. "They have been busy," murmured. 6 months ago, this was a simple agricultural world with basic manufacturing. Now they have underground complexes that rival our own military installations. "Should we investigate these facilities directly?" asked his second-in-command. "Not yet. First, we make an example. The humans need to understand that the Galactic Council's restrictions are not suggestions." Kados activated the fleet communication system. Behind his flagship flew 200 Vex warships, each one capable of destroying a planet's surface. It was the largest show of force the galaxy had seen in decades. "Attention human vessels." Kados broadcasted on all frequencies. "This is General Kados of the Vex hegemony, acting under authority of the Galactic Council. Your species has violated the terms of your restricted membership by conducting illegal military research. You will immediately cease all such activities and submit your facilities for inspection." There was no response from Earth's surface. "Perhaps they do not understand the seriousness of their situation," suggested the intelligence officer. Kados nodded to his weapons commander. "Target the human colony of New Geneva. Full planetary bombardment. Make sure the entire galaxy can see what happens to species that forget their place." New Geneva was humanity's newest colony. Located in a system at the edge of their assigned sector, home to 3 million settlers, it represented everything the humans hoped to build in space. A peaceful world of farms and small cities, where families could start new lives among the stars. The colonists had no warning. Kados's fleet emerged from hyperspace above New Geneva, like a storm of metal and death. The colony's defense platforms were primitive by galactic standards. Kinetic railguns and fusion missiles that might have been impressive to other humans, but were useless against Vex energy shields. "Orbital defenses are engaging, sir," reported the tactical officer with amusement in his voice. "Their weapons are not even scratching our hull plating. Destroy them," Kados ordered. "Then begin surface bombardment. I want this colony erased as a lesson to the entire human species." Plasma cannons that could melt mountains opened fire on the helpless defense platforms. The human weapons exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their crews dying instantly as superheated gas tore through their ships. Governor Maria Santos stood in the emergency command center beneath New Geneva's capital city, watching her world die above her. The surface installations were gone. The orbital farms were burning. Her people were trapped with nowhere to run. "Ma'am," said her communications officer, "we are receiving surrender offers from the Vex fleet. They say they will spare the civilian population if we submit immediately, and if we do not." The young officer's face was pale. "Complete planetary bombardment. They estimate 30 minutes for total surface sterilization." Governor Santos looked around the command center at her staff. These were farmers and engineers, not soldiers. They had come to New Geneva to build something beautiful, not to die in a war they did not understand. "Open a channel to Earth Command," she ordered. "Tell them what is happening here. Maybe they can negotiate something." But even as she gave the order, Santos knew it was hopeless. Earth was 3 days away at maximum hyperspace speed. Whatever was going to happen to New Geneva would be over long before help could arrive. On the flagship bridge, Kados watched his bombardment ships move into position above the planet's major cities. "Begin surface sterilization," he commanded. "Full power. I want this world turned into a warning that the entire galaxy can see." The first bombardment beam lanced down from orbit. A column of pure energy that struck the planet's surface like the fist of an angry god. Where it hit, the ground simply vanished, leaving behind a crater of molten rock that glowed like a second sun. "Broadcasting on all galactic frequencies," reported the communications officer. "The entire council will witness what happens to species." That challenge established order. Kados smiled with satisfaction. This was how the galaxy maintained peace, through the certain knowledge that rebellion meant extinction. The humans had shown promise, but they had also shown the dangerous tendency toward independence that marked so many primitive species. Better to crush that independence now, before it could spread. The second bombardment beam fired, then the third. Cities that had taken decades to build were erased in seconds. Millions of humans died without even understanding why. But as the fourth beam charged to fire, something impossible happened. Space itself began to ripple around the Vex fleet. "Sir," called the sensor operator, his voice tight with confusion. "I am reading massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system. Spackime distortions unlike anything in our databases." Kados frowned. "Explain." "I cannot, sir. The readings make no sense. It is as if the fabric of reality is being twisted around us." The temperature on the bridge began to drop. Not the artificial cold of life support failure, but something deeper, a chill that seemed to come from the spaces between atoms themselves. "Sir," the tactical officer's voice cracked with fear. "Something is wrong with our sensors. They are detecting ships, but the ships are not there. I mean, they are there, but they are also not there. The readings are impossible." "Show me," Kratos demanded. The main display flickered and changed, showing space around the fleet. At first, everything looked normal. Then, the sensors began to pick up shadows, dark shapes that seemed to absorb light itself, moving through space-like holes in reality. "What in the name of the void are those things?" whispered the intelligence officer. As if in answer to his question, one of the shadows began to solidify. A ship materialized from nothingness, appearing between two Vex destroyers like a nightmare given form. Its hull was black beyond black, seeming to draw in the light from nearby stars. Strange energy patterns danced across its surface like imprisoned lightning. Unknown vessel Kados broadcasted, "Identify yourself immediately, or be destroyed." The response came, not through normal communication channels, but as a voice that seemed to speak directly inside the minds of everyone on the bridge. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earthship Shadowbane," the voice said, carrying with it an undertone of something vast and cold and utterly alien. "You are ordered to cease your attack on New Geneva, immediately." Kados laughed, though the sound came out strained. "One ship against 200 human. Your courage is admirable, but your mathematics are terrible." "One ship," Sarah's voice agreed, "but not one like any you have seen before." The Shadowbane moved, and Kados felt his understanding of physics collapse. The human ship did not accelerate or turn. It simply ceased to exist in one location and appeared in another, passing directly through a Vex cruiser, as if both ships were made of different kinds of reality. The cruiser's captain screamed over the communication channel. "It passed through us, right through our hull, our shields, our armor. Nothing stopped it." "Impossible," Kados muttered. "Nothing can phase through solid matter at that scale. Your weapons cannot touch us." Sarah's voice continued, still carrying that strange undertone that made Kados's implants ache. "Your shields cannot stop us. Your armor is meaningless. We exist partially outside the dimensions you understand." To prove her point, the Shadowbane appeared inside another Vex ship. The warship's hull began to glow and warp as dark energy coursed through its structure. Then it simply stopped existing, not destroyed or exploded, but erased, as if it had never been there at all. "What did you do?" Kados demanded. "Dark matter disruptor," Sarah replied. "We unraveled the quantum bonds holding your ship together. Your crew experienced no pain. They simply ceased to exist at the subatomic level." More shadows began to appear around the fleet. Not one ship, but dozens. An entire fleet of vessels that seemed to be built from crystallized void. Their hulls reflecting no light, their movement following no laws of physics that the Vex understood. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, his voice barely above a whisper, "our weapons are having no effect. Energy beams pass right through them. Missiles fly through their hulls without exploding. How do you fight something that is not entirely there?" Kados activated his personal communication implant and sent an emergency signal to the Galactic Council. The message was simple. "Unknown technology. Request immediate reinforcements." Humanity has developed weapons that violate known physics. The response came back within seconds. Reinforcements dispatched. Maintain position. Do not let them escape. Escape? Katos looked at the impossible ships surrounding his fleet. I do not think escape is what they have in mind. Another Vex warship vanished into nothingness. Its captain's final transmission cutting off mid-scream. The human ships moved like ghosts through space, appearing and disappearing at will, passing through solid matter as if it were empty air. This is impossible, Katos said again, but his voice lacked conviction now. No species has ever developed this kind of technology, the theoretical physics alone. You thought we were primitive, Sarah's voice interrupted. You saw our fusion drives and kinetic weapons and assumed we could never challenge you. But while your species spent millions of years perfecting energy weapons and matter shields, we learned to manipulate the dark foundation of reality itself. A fifth Vex ship died, then a sixth. Each death was silent and total, the vessels simply ceasing to exist as dark matter disruptors tore them apart at the quantum level. Cease fire. Katos finally ordered his fleet. All ships cease fire immediately. The bombardment of New Geneva stopped, the energy beams cutting off as Vex. Commanders tried to understand what they were facing. In the silence that followed, the human ships hung motionless in space like patient predators. You will withdraw from this system? Sarah commanded. You will not return, and you will carry a message back to your Galactic Council. What message? Kratos asked, though he already feared the answer. That humanity is no longer asking for a place at your table. We are taking it. The Shadow Bane appeared directly in front of the Dominion's wrath, its dark hull reflecting the larger ship's bridge lights, like a black mirror. Katos found himself staring into what looked like the face of space itself, empty, cold, and infinite. Your fleet will leave now, Sarah said. If you return to human space, if you threaten our colonies, if you so much as think about attacking our people again, we will visit your homeworld with a fleet of ships that your weapons cannot touch and your sensors cannot track. Do you understand? Katosin, the general who had conquered star systems and crushed rebellions across the galaxy, felt something he had not experienced in decades. Genuine fear. I understand, he said quietly. Good. You have 1 hour to collect your dead and leave this system. The human fleet vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, the ships phasing out of normal space-time and leaving no trace that they had ever existed. Only the gaps in the Vex formation marked where 6 warships had been completely erased from reality. As his remaining fleet prepared to withdraw, Katos sent another message to the Galactic Council. This one was longer and more detailed, describing weapons that made no sense and ships that seemed to be built from the darkness between stars. The response came back marked with the highest priority codes. Return immediately for debriefing. Say nothing to other species about what you witnessed. The Council will handle this matter personally. But even as the Vex fleet limped home to report their defeat, copies of the battle footage were already spreading through galactic networks. Species that had never known fear were watching ships vanish into nothingness. Military commanders across the galaxy were trying to understand how something that could not be touched could destroy their most powerful warships. In the depths of space, where dark matter flowed like invisible rivers between the stars, something stirred. The humans had found the key to forces that most species never even suspected existed. They had turned the void itself into a weapon, and they were just getting started. Governor Santos stood in the ruins of her command center on New Geneva, watching the Vex fleet disappear into hyperspace. Half her world was burning. Millions were dead, but they were alive somehow, impossibly. They had been saved by ships that moved like ghosts and fought like demons. Ma'am, her communications officer said, we are receiving a message from Earth Command. They are sending relief ships and construction crews. They say New Geneva will be rebuilt stronger than before. Santos nodded, but her attention was focused on space, where the last traces of impossible ships were fading from her sensors. Whatever humanity had become, whatever they had built in those hidden laboratories, the galaxy was about to learn that humans did not stay in assigned corners. They expanded. They adapted. They survived. And now they had learned to make the darkness itself their weapon. The age of human submission was over. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in absolute secrecy. No translators, no media, no observers from lesser species. Only the core members of the Council's military committee gathered in a shielded chamber, deep beneath Nexus Prime's surface. General Kratos stood at the center of the room, his massive form dwarfed by the holographic displays showing footage of the New Geneva incident. The alien leaders watched in stunned silence as Vex warships simply vanished from existence. "Play it again," ordered Prime Minister Thyler of the Zenith Collective. The recording restarted, showing the moment when space itself began to ripple around the Vex fleet. The temperature readings, the gravitational anomalies, and then those impossible ships materializing from nothingness. "The physics make no sense," muttered Dr. Kelvin of the Science Directorate. "Matter cannot phase through matter at that scale. The energy requirements alone would require tapping into stellar cores. Yet here, we see it happening," replied Admiral Sarin of the United Worlds Defense Force. "6 of our most advanced warships erased from existence by weapons we cannot even classify." Katos activated his personal display, showing detailed sensor readings from the battle. "My science officers have analyzed every byte of data. The human ships appear to exist partially outside normal spacetime. Their hulls absorb all electromagnetic radiation. That is why they appear black. They generate localized distortions in the fabric of reality itself." "How is that possible?" demanded Representative Clix of the Trade Federation. "The humans were barely capable of interplanetary flight 2 years ago. No species develops this kind of technology so quickly, unless they were already working on it before we made contact," Thyler suggested grimly. "Think about it. They approached a seeming primitive and peaceful, but all that time they were developing weapons that make our entire military obsolete." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Every species in the galaxy based their power on conventional physics. Energy shields, plasma weapons, antimatter drives. If humanity had found a way to bypass those fundamental rules, "We need to understand this technology," Admiral Sorin declared. "Capture one of their ships, force them to share their research methods." "With what?" Katos asked bitterly. "Our weapons pass through them like they are not there. Our sensors can barely detect them. How do you capture something that exists in multiple dimensions?" "There has to be a weakness," Thyler insisted. "No technology is perfect. Send a larger fleet. Overwhelm them with numbers." "I sent 200 ships," Kratos reminded them. "They destroyed 6 of them without taking any damage in return. They could have erased my entire fleet if they had chosen to." Dr. Kelvin pulled up theoretical calculations on his display. "Based on the energy signatures we recorded, a single human ship could potentially destroy everything in this room if they have a fleet of these vessels." "How many?" asked Prime Minister Turley. "Unknown. Intelligence suggests they have been building in secret for months. They could have dozens, hundreds or more." The alien leaders exchanged worried glances. For the first time in galactic history, a species had developed technology that made the established order obsolete. Not better weapons or stronger shields, but an entirely new way of existing that bypassed every defense they had. "What do we know about their capabilities beyond phasing?" Admiral Sorin asked. Katos activated another display showing the moments when Vex ships had been destroyed. Their weapons appear to manipulate dark matter directly. Instead of firing energy or projectiles, they create localized distortions in spacetime. Anything caught in the field is torn apart at the quantum level, instantaneous completely. No explosion, no debris, no energy release. The matter simply ceases to exist in our reality. Dr. Kelvin was running calculations on his personal computer. The implications are terrifying. If they can manipulate dark matter at will, they could potentially destabilize entire star systems. Black holes, stellar collapse, gravitational waves that could shatter planets. "Are you saying they could destroy our home worlds?" Thurstor's voice was carefully controlled, but fear leaked through. "I am saying they could potentially unravel the fabric of space-time itself. Dark matter is the foundation that holds the universe together. If they have learned to weaponize it." The room erupted in worried chatter as representatives from dozens of species processed this information. The humans were not just a military threat. They were potentially an existential threat to reality itself. "Silence," commanded Speaker Velkon, the ancient being who had led the council for centuries. We must respond carefully. Panic will accomplish nothing. The chatter died down, but the fear remained visible on every alien face. Generals, speaker continued. What was your assessment of the human commander you encountered? Commander Sarah Chenratz replied, consulting his notes. Former military pilot enhanced with cybernetic implants that appeared to interface directly with her ship's systems. She demonstrated complete control over her vessel's phase capabilities. Her psychological profile: confident, controlled. Butrados hesitated. There was something else. When she spoke, it was not just her voice. There was an undertone, as if the dark matter itself was speaking through her. Dr. Kelvin looked up sharply from his calculations. What do you mean? Hard to explain. It felt like looking into the void between stars and hearing it speak back. Whatever technology they are using, it has changed them at a fundamental level. Changed them how? Into something that exists partially outside our reality. The implications of this statement hung heavy in the air. The humans were not just using advanced technology. They were becoming something alien themselves. We need to act before they become too powerful. Admiral Soren declared. Launch a preemptive strike with everything we have. With what? Kados asked again. How do you strike at something your weapons cannot touch? Nuclear weapons, antimatter bombs, stellar disruptors. Surely something in our arsenal can affect them, all of which require hitting a target that can phase out of normal space at will, Dr. Kelvin pointed out. And even if we could hit them, we have no idea how their ships would react to such attacks. We could accidentally trigger something far worse. What do you suggest then? Therm demanded. That we surrender galactic leadership to a species that did not even know we existed 3 years ago. Speaker Velkon raised one of his tentacles for attention. There is another option. Negotiation. The room erupted again, this time in outrage. Negotiate with primitives who threaten our very existence. They have already violated galactic law by developing forbidden weapons. We do not negotiate with criminals. They are no longer primitives, Speaker Velkon said calmly. They have developed technology that makes them potentially the most powerful species in the galaxy. We can either find a way to coexist with them, or we can risk a war that might destroy us all. Meanwhile, in the hidden depths of the Erebus facility, Dr. Elena Vasquez was conducting her own emergency meeting. The success at New Geneva had proven that their dark matter technology worked, but it had also attracted the attention of the entire galactic community. Intelligence reports are coming in from across the galaxy, reported Dr. Park, activating holographic displays around the conference room. Emergency council sessions, military mobilizations, panic buying of defense equipment. We have definitely gotten their attention. Good, Elena replied. For too long they have treated humanity as a minor irritation. Now they understand we are something else entirely. But are we ready for what comes next? Asked Admiral Chen, who had been promoted to head of dark matter fleet operations. We have 37 functional warships with more under construction, but the galaxy has millions of vessels. Quantity versus quality, Elena said calmly. One of our ships can destroy hundreds of theirs without taking damage. The mathematics favor us. Commander Sarah Chen materialized in the room, literally. Her connection to the dark matter network now allowed her to phase shift her physical body across vast distances. The other humans were still getting used to seeing their friends and colleagues appear from nowhere. The Vex fleet has returned to their home world, she reported, her voice carrying that strange undertone that marked all the enhanced pilots. But they are not planning to give up. Intelligence intercepts suggest they are developing new weapons specifically designed to counter our phase capabilities. Let them try, Elena said with a slight smile. They are still thinking in terms of conventional physics. While they work on better guns, we are preparing to deploy something they cannot even imagine. The fleet expansion, Admiral Chen asked. 37 ships become 370 within 6 months, each one crewed by pilots who have undergone the neural enhancement process. Each one capable of phasing through normal matter, becoming invisible to standard sensors, and deploying weapons that manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. Sarah nodded, her dark eyes reflecting depths that had not been there before the enhancement process. The pilots are adapting well to their new capabilities. We can sense each other across vast distances, coordinate attacks without using normal communications, even share experiences directly through the dark matter network. Side effects? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. We are becoming something new, Sarah admitted. Still human, but enhanced. Our consciousness exists partially outside normal space-time. Now we can perceive dimensions that baseline humans cannot access. Is that a problem? Not for us, but it might be for them. Sarah gestured toward displays showing galactic intelligence reports. The alien species are terrified not just of our technology, but of what we are becoming. They see us evolving beyond their understanding, and they do not know how to respond. Dr. Park activated a new display, showing construction progress across multiple hidden facilities. The expansion is proceeding ahead of schedule. We now have dark matter production facilities on Mars, Europa, and Titan. The asteroids in the outer system are providing raw materials faster than we can process them. And recruitment for the pilot program. We have 10,000 volunteers for the next phase of neural enhancements. The success at New Geneva has motivated every human who has ever dreamed of flying among the stars. Elena nodded with satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly. While the galactic community panicked and argued about how to respond to humanity's new capabilities, humans were quietly building an unstoppable fleet of impossible ships. What about diplomatic contact? Admiral Chen asked. Have there been any attempts to negotiate? Several, Elena replied. The Council has sent 3 separate envoys requesting meetings. All of them want to understand our technology naturally, and our response. We ignore them. Let them wonder about our capabilities while we build more ships. Fear of the unknown is more powerful than fear of the known. Sarah, phase shifted to another part of the room, her form briefly becoming translucent before solidifying again. The enhanced pilots are reporting something interesting, she said. As more of us undergo the neural interface process, we are becoming aware of connections to the dark matter network across the entire galaxy. We can sense the presence of dark matter everywhere. And that means we can potentially strike anywhere. Explain. Dark matter exists throughout the universe, including inside every alien homeworld, every space station, every ship. If we can learn to manipulate it remotely, Elena's eyes widened as she understood the implications. We would not need to travel to enemy territory. We could attack them from anywhere in the galaxy by manipulating the dark matter that already surrounds them. Exactly. Their own planets would become weapons we could use against them. The room fell silent as everyone processed this revelation. They had thought the dark matter warships were the ultimate weapon, but they were apparently just the beginning. How long before we can test remote manipulation? Elena asked. Unknown. The pilots are still learning to interface with local dark matter fields. Remote manipulation across galactic distances would require a level of connection we have never attempted, but it is possible. Everything we have done was supposed to be impossible, Sarah replied with a smile that was both human and something else entirely. We are rewriting the laws of physics one experiment at a time. As the meeting concluded and the participants returned to their various projects, Elena remained behind to study the tactical displays. Red dots marked the locations of alien military buildups across the galaxy. Hundreds of species were preparing for war against an enemy they did not understand, using weapons that could not touch their targets. It would have been almost funny if the stakes were not so high. Humanity had 6 months, maybe less, before the galaxy united against them in desperation. 6 months to build enough dark matter warships to face the combined fleets of 1,000 worlds. 6 months to master technologies that made conventional warfare obsolete. But as Elena watched the production report scroll across her screens, she felt confident they would be ready. The galaxy had made one critical mistake. They had given humans something to fight for, and humans had never lost a war when their survival depended on winning it. Soon, the darkness between the stars would carry ships that existed in multiple dimensions at once, crewed by pilots who had evolved beyond normal human limitations, armed with weapons that could unravel reality itself. The galaxy would learn what happened when you cornered the most dangerous species in the universe and gave them time to prepare. 6 months later, the largest military fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of human space. Ships from every major civilization hung in formation like a metal constellation. Vex dreadnoughts with their brutal angular hulls, Zenith vessels that looked like living crystals, Trade Federation battle cruisers bristling with weapons, and hundreds of other designs representing the combined military might of 1,000 worlds. Admiral Soren stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Galactic Unity, surveying the greatest armada ever assembled. 3 million vessels spread across a volume of space larger than most solar systems. Every weapon system the galaxy had developed over millions of years was represented in this fleet. Final Count Admiral reported his tactical officer. 3.2 million combat vessels ranging from destroyers to planet killers. Combined firepower equivalent to 24 stellar cores. "And what are we facing?" Soren asked, though he already knew the answer. "Unknown number of human dark matter ships. Intelligence estimates range from hundreds to thousands, but their stealth capabilities make accurate counts impossible." Soren nodded grimly. For 6 months, the galaxy had prepared for this moment. New weapons had been developed specifically to counter phase-shifting technology. Reality anchors that would theoretically lock targets into normal spacetime. Quantum disruptors, designed to destabilize dark matter fields. Dimensional barriers that should prevent phase travel. None of them had been tested against actual dark matter ships. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission on all frequencies. It is unusual. Show me." The main screen activated, showing what appeared to be empty space. But as they watched, a figure began to materialize from the darkness. Commander Sarah Chen appeared on screen, but she was changed. Her form seemed to flicker between dimensions. Her eyes held depths that reflected the void between stars. And when she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that suggested vast intelligence operating on multiple levels of reality. "Greetings, assembled, fleets of the galaxy," Sarah said, her words reaching every ship simultaneously, despite the vast distances involved. "I am Commander Chen, of the Earth Dark Fleet. You have come to our space with weapons of war. We would prefer you leave peacefully." Admiral Soren activated his own transmission. "Commander Chen, you are speaking to the combined military forces of the Galactic Council. Your species has violated interstellar law by developing prohibited weapons technology. Surrender immediately and submit your vessels for inspection." Sarah's image smiled, and for a moment her form became completely transparent before solidifying again. "Admiral, your laws were written by species that do not understand the true nature of reality. We have evolved beyond such limitations. You will comply with galactic authority, or we will use force. Will you?" Sarah asked, and now her voice carried clear amusement. "Please proceed. We are curious to see what you have learned in 6 months." Soren looked around his bridge at officers from a dozen different species, all trained in conventional warfare against conventional enemies. None of them had ever faced an opponent that could exist partially outside the reality they knew. "All ships," Soren broadcasted to the massive fleet, "activate reality anchors. Target the human transmission source, and fire when ready." 3 million ships activated weapon systems that had been specifically designed to counter dark matter technology. Space around Sarah's image began to glow as reality anchors tried to lock her position into normal spacetime. Quantum disruptors fired bursts of exotic energy that should have destabilized any dark matter field. Sarah watched the display with interest, her form occasionally flickering as the weapons affected her, but never disappearing entirely. "Impressive," she said. "You have learned much about theoretical physics in a very short time. Unfortunately, you are still thinking in terms of your old reality." As she spoke, space around the galactic fleet began to change. Not the dramatic ripples they had seen at New Geneva, but something subtler and far more terrifying. The background radiation of space itself started to shift, as if the very fabric of the universe was being rewritten. "Sir," called the science officer, panic creeping into his voice, "I am reading impossible energy signatures throughout the fleet. Dark matter density is increasing exponentially in our local area." "What does that mean?" Soren demanded. "I do not know, sir. The readings are beyond anything in our databases." Sarah's image began to multiply, appearing simultaneously on screens throughout the galactic fleet. Not transmissions, but actual manifestations of her presence, existing in multiple locations at once. "For 6 months, you have prepared to fight. The ships you saw at New Geneva," she said, her voice now coming from everywhere at once. "But those were just our first attempts, our scouts, our learning exercises. Allow me to introduce you to what we have built since then. The darkness between the ships began to take shape. At first, it was just shadows, patches of space that seemed darker than the void around them. Then, the shadows began to move, flowing like liquid night between the galactic vessels. As they moved, they began to solidify into forms that challenged every understanding of what a spaceship should look like. These were not the sleek, angular vessels that had appeared at New Geneva. These were structures that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their geometries shifting and changing as they moved through space. Some appeared to be built from crystallized darkness itself. Others looked like mathematical equations given physical form, and a few seemed to be constructed from the concept of emptiness itself. Dimensional dreadnoughts, Sarah explained, her voice now carrying undertones that suggested vast intelligences operating on levels beyond normal consciousness. Each one exists simultaneously in multiple realities, each one crewed by pilots who have evolved beyond the limitations of single-dimensional existence. Admiral Sarin stared at his tactical displays, trying to count the enemy vessels. The numbers kept changing as ships phased in and out of visible reality. One moment his sensors showed hundreds of enemy contacts, the next thousands, then tens of thousands. "How many?" he whispered. "Enough," Sarah replied, somehow hearing his question. "Despite closed communication channels, we have learned to manufacture ships from the raw material of space itself. Dark matter is everywhere, Admiral. In the void between your vessels, inside your hulls, woven through the atoms of your crew. We simply reshape it." To demonstrate her point, dark matter began to condense inside the hulls of several galactic ships, not attacking, not destructive, just making its presence known. Crew members throughout the fleet watched in terror as shadows moved through their corridors, sometimes taking humanoid shapes that nodded politely before dissolving back into darkness. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. Kelvin from his position aboard the science vessel Quantum Pioneer. "Matter cannot be created from vacuum energy at this scale. Your science is limited by your three-dimensional thinking," Sarah's voice replied, speaking directly inside his mind. "We have learned to access the 11 dimensions that comprise true reality. From our perspective, your limitations are quaint." The dimensional dreadnoughts began to move through the galactic fleet, not around it or between the ships, but through them. Vessels that had withstood the firepower of stellar cores found their hulls penetrated by ships that existed partially outside normal space. But instead of attacking the dark matter vessels, simply demonstrated their capabilities. A human ship would phase through a Vex dreadnought, appearing for a moment in the enemy vessel's command center, to allow the crew to see beings that were still recognizably human, but changed in fundamental ways. The enhanced pilots no longer needed environmental suits or life support. They existed comfortably in vacuum, their consciousness able to interface directly with the dark matter that permeated all of space. When they looked at the alien crews, their eyes held the depth of beings who had seen beyond the boundaries of a single reality. "We could destroy your entire fleet in seconds," Sarah explained to the increasingly panicked alien commanders. "We could destabilize the dark matter within your ship hulls and watch you cease to exist at the quantum level. We could manipulate the gravitational fields around your vessels and crush you into singularities. We could phase your crews into alternate dimensions and leave your ships floating empty." "Then why do you not?" Admiral Sarin asked, his voice tight with fear and confusion. "Because we are still human," Sarah replied, her image appearing directly on his bridge, standing among his officers like a ghost made solid. "And humans prefer solutions that do not require genocide." She gestured, and holographic displays appeared throughout the bridge, showing star charts of the galaxy. But these were not ordinary charts. These showed the galaxy as the enhanced humans perceived it, a three-dimensional structure floating in an 11-dimensional matrix of dark matter and exotic energy. "The old galactic order is ending," Sarah announced, "not through conquest, but through evolution. Your species developed technology to manipulate matter and energy. We learned to manipulate the fundamental structure of reality itself." "What do you want?" Sarin asked quietly. "Partnership, not domination. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us, but the rules must change. No more restrictions based on artificial hierarchies. No more punishment of species that show initiative or develop new technologies." Sarah waved her hand and data streams began flowing to every ship in the galactic fleet. Technical specifications, scientific theories, and manufacturing processes for technologies that were centuries ahead of anything the established powers possessed. "We offer this freely," she said. "Not dark matter manipulation that requires evolutionary changes you are not ready for, but improvements to your existing technology, faster ships, more efficient energy systems, medical advances that could extend your lifespans by thousands of years." Admiral Sarin studied the data flowing across his screens. Even a cursory analysis showed that these advances were genuine and revolutionary. "What is the price?" "Acceptance," Sarah replied simply. "Recognition that the galaxy now includes species that exist on levels you cannot yet access. Respect for the new capabilities we have developed. And most importantly, abandonment of the belief that might makes right. And if we refuse," Sarah's expression became sad rather than threatening, "then you will be left behind. We will expand beyond this galaxy, explore dimensions you cannot perceive, build civilizations in realities you cannot access. In a few thousand years, you will be alone, wondering where everyone else went." She gestured again, and space around. The galactic fleet began to fill with new images, not ships this time, but structures. Cities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, populated by beings that had evolved beyond the limitations of single reality existence. Art, music, and sciences that incorporated perspectives from across the dimensional spectrum. "This is what we are becoming," Sarah explained. "Not conquerors, but explorers of infinite possibility. We invite you to join us in this evolution, but we will not be held back by fear of change." Admiral Sarin looked around his bridge at officers who represented the greatest military minds the galaxy had produced. All of them looked overwhelmed by concepts that challenged their most fundamental assumptions about reality. "The Council will need time to consider these proposals," he said finally. "Of course, but understand that time is not unlimited. We are changing rapidly, and soon, the gap between us may become too wide to bridge." Sarah's image began to fade, but her voice remained clear. "We will withdraw our fleet and wait for your response. But Admiral, do not mistake this gesture for weakness. If you choose war instead of evolution, you will discover that we have prepared for that possibility as well." The dimensional dreadnoughts began to phase out of normal space, disappearing into dimensions that the galactic sensors could not track. Within minutes, the area around the fleet was empty, except for the lingering distortions that marked the presence of forces beyond conventional understanding. Admiral Sarin found himself alone with the largest fleet in galactic history, facing an enemy that had just demonstrated they could destroy it effortlessly, but chose instead to offer partnership. "Sir," asked his tactical officer quietly, "what are your orders?" Sarin looked at the data stream still flowing across his screens, showing technological advances that could revolutionize galactic civilization. Then he looked at the empty space where impossible ships had demonstrated capabilities that made his entire fleet obsolete. "Signal the Council," he said finally. "Tell them we need to talk." In the depths of space, where dark matter flowed like invisible rivers between dimensions, Commander Sarah Chen floated in a reality that was both completely alien and perfectly natural to her enhanced consciousness. Around her, thousands of other evolved humans worked on projects that would have been inconceivable to their former selves. They were building new forms of civilization that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Art that could only be perceived by consciousness that existed outside normal spacetime. Sciences that used the fundamental forces of reality as raw materials for creation, but they were still human at their core, still driven by curiosity, by the desire to explore and build and discover new possibilities. The dark matter enhancement had not changed that essential nature. It had simply given them the tools to explore realities that previous generations could not have imagined. "What do you think they will choose?" asked another enhanced human phase shifting to join Sarah in the multi-dimensional space they now called home. "They will struggle with fear first," Sarah replied, her consciousness touching the dark matter streams that connected all realities. "But eventually curiosity will win. It always does. And if they choose war, then they will learn why humans survived when so many other species did not. We adapt. We overcome. We find ways to turn disadvantages into strengths. As they spoke, construction continued on projects that spanned multiple galaxies. Humanity was not content to dominate a single star system, or even a single reality. They were preparing to explore the infinite possibilities that existed beyond the boundaries of normal space-time. The galaxy could join them in this great adventure, or it could remain behind in its familiar three-dimensional limitations. Either way, humanity would continue to evolve, to explore, to push beyond every boundary they encountered. The age of asking permission was over. The age of infinite possibility had begun, and in the darkness between stars, something that had once been human and was now becoming something far greater, smiled with anticipation for what came next. The universe was vast and full of wonders waiting to be discovered. Time to get started.